Great, so today we're going to learn about comparing decimals. So if we look at this number, we're comparing 3 and 267 thousandths to 3 and 32 hundredths. So we have a couple steps that we're going to follow. So step 1 says we're going to line up the decimals. That's super important. So we want to make sure that we're lining up the decimals and lining up each place value. So we have a 1's, 3, and 267 thousandths. Okay. So now we're going to write our second one, 3 and 32 hundredths. Okay. Step 2 says we're going to fill in the zeros. So we're making sure that all of our place values are lined up. So we have the ones place, tens place, the hundredths place, we have the thousands place. Okay, we have our decimals that are completely lined up. If you notice, there's nothing in this thousands place, so that's where we're going to fill in our zero. We're going to fill in any zeros after the decimal point. Then we're going to start at our largest place value, move to the smallest place value, and compare each number. So the largest place value here is our ones place. So we're going to look at the threes, and they're the same. And then we come to the tens, which has a 2 and a 3. So I can stop at these numbers because they're different numbers. So we have a 2 and we have a 3. So now I need to think which number out of these two is larger. Okay, the 3 is larger, so that means that this number, 3 and 320 thousandths, is larger than 3 and 267 thousandths. And if you notice, the number behind the decimal point is 267 compared to 320, so that again would make this larger. So 3 and 32 hundredths is our larger number, so we're going to put 3 and 267 thousandths is less than 3 and 32 hundredths because it's equivalent to 3 and 320 thousandths. Okay, so let's try it with our ones at the bottom. So we have 56 and 3/10, and the first step is we need to line up our place values and kind of create our chart. So 56 and 3/10, and we're comparing it to 5. So the 5 should be in the ones place. The decimal is what we need to line up. So I like to write my decimal first, then 5 and 634 thousandths. Again, it's really important that we line up our decimals. They have to be the same. Okay, and each place value should be lined up. Okay. So let's look at 5 here. And if we look, there's no 10s. So 5 is larger. 5 tens are larger than 5 ones. Okay. And if we look at this number, 56 is larger than 5. So I know when I go back over here that this number is going to be larger. But if I go through my steps, I've lined up my decimals, I'm going to fill in my zeros, and then I'm going to start at my tens place. Again, the 5 and a 0 means that this is larger. So 56 and 3/10 is larger than 5 and 634 thousandths. And if you think about it, 56 as a whole number is larger than 5. So we always want to start with those whole numbers before we go to the decimal. Okay, so let's look at our last example. We're going to put it into our place value chart and line up our decimals. So we have 8 and 321 thousandths, and we have 8 and 3/10. Okay. Step 2 says we need to fill in our zeros, so we're going to fill in our zeros. And then we're going to start with the largest place value, which is the ones place. And we're going to compare from left to right. So we have 8 and 8, they're the same. 3 and 3 is the same. And we have 2 and 0 though. So we're going to compare this, and 2 is larger than 0. So that means that this number is larger than this number. So 8 and 321 thousandths is greater than 8 and 3/10. And again, if you take a look behind the decimal place, we have 321 as opposed to 300. So again, 321 is larger than 300. Alright, so let's go and let's look at another example, the last one. You might see a model of a decimal, so you have to figure out what does this model represent. And if we look, we have 77 boxes filled in, so that means that's 0 and 77 hundredths. Okay, so if I write in my place value, we have 0 and 77 hundredths, and it says which decimals are less than the one shown in this diagram. So we're comparing it to this diagram. So now we're going to kind of compare all of these, and we want to know which ones are less than 77 hundredths. So I can kind of extend this, make sure my decimals are lined up, and I'm writing each one of these. So 769 thousandths, again, 0 and 5 tenths. So notice all my decimal places are lined up, all my numbers in each place value are lined up, and 0 and 7 tenths. Alright, so if we think about step 1, we've just done it. We've lined up all of our decimal points. Okay. Step 2 says we need to add zeros in any place values that are missing. So we might want to take this and think about place value. Okay. And then if we look, you notice these two have nothing there, these two are missing here and here. So we're going to fill in all those place values. So 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And we want to figure out which ones are less than 7,700. So 7,700 is here. So we're going to compare all of them to this first number. So let's look. So we have our zeros. So let's look at the first one. 7 and 7. We have 7 and 5. So 5 is less than 7. So this one is less than. So now let's go to our next one. 0 and 769 thousandths. So we have 7 versus 7. 7 versus 6 up. So 6 is less than 7. So this one is also works. Then we have 0 and 5 tenths, which we expanded to 500 thousandths. 7 versus a 5. Oh, that one's true as well. Alright, so now we're on to our last one. We have 7 and a 7. Then we have 7 and a 0. So again, we have less than. So that means that all of our answers are less than 77 thousandths. So I would click on all of those. Okay. Great, so let's go ahead and you're going to go to the next page, and every time I show you one, you're going to stop and practice using the steps from your notes. So write down this one, pause and write down this one, pause and write down this one, pause and write down this one, and then I'm going to have you pause the video and write down this one as well. And then when you're finished with all these, you're going to do your IXL and then complete your exit ticket.